Right here was the porch of the house. This was the front door. And then you just walked into the living room. There was a small dining area, a kitchen, and then a bedroom.
There have been countless stories of loss and survival to surface in the wake of the campfire. But to get a clearer picture of what happened that day, we also wanted to talk to someone who was rushing toward the flames, not away from them.
The morning started out as an average morning. My son's birthday was the day before. I did notice it was a little hazy, smoky, didn't think much of it. So I started driving to work down to Orville, heading down Clark. And once I made the turn onto 70, I saw it in my rearview mirror. You could just see the column coming up.
Leland is part of an elite group of wildland firefighters known as Hotshots. His crew, the Feather River Hotshots, are one of 3 such units assigned to the Plumas National Forest, and many of them live in Paradise.
So I instantly called my other buddy that lives up here, another firefighter that's on the crew. Said, hey, you see the column that's coming out of the canyon and where it's heading? And he was right behind me and he says, oh shit, the same thing. He says it's going right for Paradise. At this time, I'm calling my wife saying, there's a big column coming out of the canyon leaning right over Paradise and it's gonna be there soon. So go get the kids back out of, she had just dropped them off at school. I said, go get the kids from school and get home, get the cats, get the dogs, and get the hell out of there.
Leland's wife made it back to the school around 7:45. There'd been no notice to evacuate, and the school was still accepting late arrivals, so she went to the principal and relayed the information that Leland had given her about the column of smoke. That's when calls started being made for parents to come pick their kids up. Meantime, down in Oroville, Leland was preparing his crew to return to Paradise.
We got in one of the buggies, we got in a patrol truck and called dispatch, said we were heading up here. Just because we knew, listening to the radio traffic, that it had already crossed Pence, and we knew the next point, if we were gonna try to make do any good, try to hold the fire, was gonna be on Clark Road.
You could argue that no one in Paradise that day was better equipped to navigate the campfire than Leland's crew. They knew the major roads, the surrounding fuel types, and the amount of structures in town. But in his 16 years of service as a hotshot, Leland had never faced a fire like the one he did that day.
The daylight's starting to turn night, and it eventually turned darker than night. And at this point, there's nobody else around. There's no other firefighters, there's nobody. And you can see the fire coming through this canyon over here. So we decided, well, there's this big subdivision down here. We need to start evacuating people because it's the amount of fire that was out there with the weather conditions. There's not really a whole lot we could do. We don't have water. There was only 5 of us. So really it would turn into from saving property to saving lives.
Over the next 24 hours, Leland and his fellow hotshots went house to house, subdivision to subdivision, notifying people to evacuate, and pulling residents from their homes and cars and taking them to shelter.
We picked up grandmas on the side of the road that were just barely able to make it up the side of the road, 15-year-old kids that didn't know where to go. You think you get everybody, but then so a lady drives up behind me in a vehicle, and it's to the point where I don't want to get out of the truck because there's embers everywhere and I don't want to catch the inside of the truck on fire. And she gets out of her car, and so I'm like, well, I guess I got to get out. And she walks up to me calm as day and she goes, well, what are we supposed to do now? And it's like, well, just get in the truck and we're going to drive back into Paradise. I mean, every one of those people we picked up on the side of the road, I mean, who knows what would have happened to them. They had nowhere to go. There was nobody else around.
Is there anything that could have been done to prevent something like this happen, or at least handled better in the evacuation that could have saved
I don't
more
know.
lives?
It's hard. The fire moves so fast. You look at what they ordered. They ordered everything they could. They ordered the world. They did push the panic button, and I mean, the world was coming. It's just sometimes, you can only do what you can do. And
How many did you come across that didn't know to evacuate?
man, I'd say pretty much all of them.
Nobody knew to evacuate.
They didn't get the word. Like I said, there weren't text messages sent out. It wasn't being broadcast on the TV. It wasn't being broadcast on any local radio stations. They just either left on their own, or eventually, other people like myself were driving around telling them to get out just by word of mouth.
While Leland and his crew were busy notifying people to evacuate and saving lives, their own houses were burning. The last time Leland saw his house standing off of Clark Road was at 11:30. 25 minutes later, it was fully involved.
And that was the tough part of it. We knew we were going to lose everything, but you have a duty to act, and it's more important that we were getting people out than to try and save what we own.
Many first responders who may have had the opportunity to save their own homes lost everything that day in order to save others. Leland's now living with his family in the barracks of a nearby fire station, and as much as he'd like to see the town of Paradise be rebuilt, he knows things need to change.
It's a really large community stuffed in the middle of trees. The way the city's laid out, in my opinion, is really poorly. There's a lot of one-way streets that go to dead ends, and there's roads off of roads, houses set behind houses. There's probably too many structures within the community for what it was able to sustain. And that's what it turned into. It turned into a house fire because the structures were so tight, limited resources. I'd like to say the town's gonna be rebuilt, but I don't know, that's 10 years out maybe, even if people come back. It definitely won't ever be the same. And I hope it's not. I hope they really put some thought into how they're gonna lay the town out because, I mean, the whole Sierra front, this is a representation of what could happen and what's probably gonna happen someday somewhere else. And just hopefully we can learn from it.